yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here. Oh, yeah. Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
For years, Whoopi Goldberg has dominated the conversation by mocking conservative points of view, interrupting guests she disagrees with, and controlling the entire panel as though it were her own playground. She has used it as her stage, her domain, and her act, steamrolling past opposing opinions before they can even catch their breath. Any attempt at resistance was met with swift silence, mockery, and termination. As of right now, the recipe has worked.
You don't have anything to say. You blab. You just go on and on and on and on and on and on.
Because this time, Whoopi was matched. Karoline Leavitt was not only someone who talked, she brought knowledge, confidence, and a determination to dissect Whoopi's tale piece by piece. And that's exactly what she did. This wasn't your normal battle of viewpoints where Whoopi and her panel constantly interrupt and make fun of a conservative guest until the person is hardly able to talk. It wasn't like the others, no. This took place in public and was a reckoning. Karoline not only disagreed with Whoopi, but also exposed her. She brought to light the blatant contradictions, duplicity, and hypocrisy that Whoopi had been able to ignore for years.
Do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate.
One by one, Karoline repressed every haughty remark, eye roll, and attempt to ignore her until it happened. Not even Whoopi herself, the panel, or the audience anticipated that. Keep quiet. For the first time in the show's history, Whoopi Goldberg was quiet. As they watched the unimaginable happen, even her co-hosts, who always leaped in to help her, sat there transfixed, looking at each other nervously. The panel halted, the audience held their breath, and the lady, who usually had a retort and a mocking remark ready, was startled into total and utter speechlessness. There was strain in the air, and this was history being made. After years of shutting others down, Whoopi was eventually shut down herself. She was looking completely shocked. Karoline Leavitt not only won a debate but also changed the direction of events. Now, the outrage is more intense than ABC has ever seen. The network is currently in full-blown crisis mode and is frantically trying to control the fallout behind the scenes before it gets out of control. The reaction has been scathing, from viewers, insiders, and even some of the most enthusiastic supporters of the perspective. ABC officials are holding emergency meetings.
Divisive and disgusting speech that any president, certainly in my lifetime, has ever given. He essentially waged war on half of the country by saying that we are all a threat to democracy because we believe in putting America first. It's not radical to want to put your country and your own people first. It's not radical to want to have a strong border, a strong military, and to unleash the might of your own economy, not economies around the world. You know, we have seen cultural Marxism trickling its way through every institution in this country. The public school system, the higher education university system, Hollywood, big tech, the corrupt mainstream media that I fought against in President Trump's White House are indoctrinating my generation of Americans into hating our country, hating one another based on race and gender and sex and all of this other BS, quite frankly.
Desperate to use this disaster to their advantage, but at what cost? Whoopi, it's done already. But she's not only in hot water, she may be exiled for good. Her dominance in the industry, her ability to say whatever she wanted, silence anybody she wanted, and disregard competing views as if they didn't deserve to exist, had made her untouchable for years. Because the embarrassment is too public and the criticism is too harsh, the executives who once blindly backed her are now rethinking their choice. Producers and executives are frantically attempting to assess whether Whoopi has become too much of a liability, and she could be the first person ABC chooses as a scapegoat to allay the ire. Significant firings are reportedly occurring, and the rumors circulating behind closed doors are becoming louder. But what exactly was it that Karoline Leavitt said live on TV that made Whoopi feel so humiliated and ashamed? Which terrible event rendered the panel, always full of words, unable to speak? Was it due to violent political takeovers and the conversations they would prefer you not to hear? It all started when Karoline Leavitt was taught about wokeness by Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, and the other panelists from the Viewpoints panel. This was not meant to be a fair conversation, but rather another epic beatdown. Another example of a conservative guest being ignored, denigrated, and steamrolled by left-wing hosts who appear to be conversing.
She's probably been put in there because according to Donald Trump, she's a 10.
You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though. It's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous Trump administration.
As is typically the case, they thought it would be an uneven ambush, but they were very wrong. They thought Karoline was just another guest. They could coerce others into surrendering. They didn't know what was going to happen from the start, but they thought she would turn around or break under pressure like so many people before her. The ugly Whoopi, with her usual arrogant expression, rolled her eyes so hard they seemed stuck and leaned back in her chair. Her attitude was one of disdain, arrogance, and total disregard for what Karoline had to say. It was the same process. She had done 100 times. The snide laughing, the passive-aggressive sighs, and the condescending glances had to be broken up by Joy Behar. Before Karoline could finish her sentence, Joy made her usual scathing, resentful remark. Oh, so now we're judging women based on their looks. The irony? Not on the charts. To put it plainly, these are the same women that always preach about supporting and assisting other women.
So you cannot be attractive and smart? I will try to give Joy the benefit, and thank you. I try to give Joy the benefit of the doubt that she didn't see that briefing. Because if you saw that yesterday on numerous topics, no big binder, I think she might have had a different impression of this young woman who held her own.
I mean, you would have to give her the benefit of the doubt that she did absolutely no research or reading about anything dealing with Karoline Leavitt before she made that remark.
Mm-hmm.
Because Karoline Leavitt she went to St. Anselm College. She worked for WMUR.
Ran for Congress?
In New Hampshire. She ran for Congress at the age of 25, put on a very good campaign. She lost by 8 or 9 points, but she still put on a good campaign. Then she was the press secretary for the Trump campaign, going on TV literally every day.
Well, heavily pregnant and a new mom.
Yeah, she's a new mother. And then she goes out yesterday and gives and this is speaking very objectively, because I've watched every press secretary since going back to Marlon Fitzwater. Yeah, I'm that old. And she went out there for her very first briefing at the age of 27 years old, the youngest press secretary ever, and did a terrific job of
Hey, take pleasure in utilizing words like empowerment. Unless the woman is blatantly conservative, sisterhood implies togetherness. Then the fake feminism and so-called support are off the table. The same people who claim that women should help one another are the first to discredit them, and it disappears in a flash. When they didn't fit the conventional story, the hypocrisy was clear. But this time, they were up against more than just anyone. This time, they were up against Karoline Leavitt, and she was going to make all the difference. Then came the sneers, the mockery, and the cheap shots. The way they banded together like a pack and took turns piling on was so cliched, almost planned. The eye rolls, the fake laughter, the haughty head shakes. It was clear that they were not interested in debating with Karoline. Their purpose was not to have a fair discussion. It was their intention to assault. But Karoline did not flinch. She did not falter under the strain. She took her time being more diplomatic. And she didn't even try to apologize. Instead, she stayed composed and uncompromising, then answered with a single question that sliced through the fake outrage like a knife. Whoopi, can you even hear yourself? It's a close environment. Whoopi's face quivered for a minute and the mask of arrogance fell away. Karoline wasn't playing their game or frightening them. Instead, she was exposing them. The real sexism occurs when you support women's empowerment while claiming that a conservative woman's success is because of her looks. Boom. As the crowd paused and the air grew dense, not even Joy Behar, the queen of interruptions, sarcasm, and never letting anyone finish a sentence, spoke. Will you take some action? As she sat there with her arms crossed, mouth slightly parted, and eyes darting to Whoopi, she muttered inaudibly. But Karoline was far from done. Without hesitation, she delivered the next punch as she drew closer, her eyes focused on Whoopi, her voice firm, her tone unyielding. Equality is not what wokeness is about. It is a political tactic used to silence opposing viewpoints. And on this program, Whoopi, you demonstrate it every single day.
Are completely out of touch with reality. And you're right, ABC should...
I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay,
now,
I'm sorry, guys. We're going to come back out to the panel. Karoline,
the expectation...
The acute, loud, and indisputable gasps. The entire studio shifted. During one of the few occasions when live television was broadcast, even the most discriminatory viewers at home could feel that something had changed. The old-fashioned strategy of scaring conservatives into submission was failing this time. The audience didn't know whether to applaud, gasp, or just sit there in shock. And Whoopi? For the first time, she had nothing. No snide response, no dismissive laugh, no eye roll, just dead quiet. Then it happened. Social media became popular. Among the hashtags that swiftly gained popularity nationwide were #WhoopiExposed and #CarolineOwnsTheView. Videos of the conversation went viral on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter, garnering millions of views in a matter of minutes. People continued to watch, rewatch, and remark. Even long-standing aficionados of The View were incensed by what they had just witnessed. The prejudice was too overt, the hypocrisy too evident, and the response? It was a disaster for ABC. Furthermore, behind the scenes,
It was so good. So good. In a statement afterwards, this young lady claimed her, quote, on-air snub proves that you know who will not be treated fairly in the upcoming debate. Now, do you think this is going to make people doubt whether CNN can stay objective, or is this more of the same of, everybody's against me, it's all rigged, I tell you. Is everything rigged?
No, it's their MO. That's what they do. Rachel Maddow said last week, she's like, if the election is lost, it was rigged. If there's a debate.
absolute horror. ABC executives were feverishly juggling ringing phones, damage control teams were working overtime, and emergency meetings were being called one after another. They had no idea how big the impact would be. They knew The View had been involved in a number of controversies over the years. But this was not all there was to it. This wasn't just another heated argument or hyperbolic debate. This was a complete, uncontested, unedited disclosure of the show's true operations. Then came the leaks. Within hours, the reports started to pour in. Insiders claim that ABC producers were furious with Whoopi. The senior brass was horrified by what happened. Their steadfast leader and long-standing idol, Whoopi, suddenly turned into a liability. For many years, she had been their favorite enforcer and most ardent supporter. But she now served as the public spokesperson for a continuing dispute. ABC was sure of one thing. This was far from being done. The sponsors were starting to feel nervous. The internet was no longer the exclusive platform for the outrage. It was having an effect on the money. All of a sudden, prominent sponsors who had readily backed the position for years were reevaluating their partnerships. Behind the scenes, executives were experiencing stress as contracts were being reviewed and calls were being placed. Because network loyalty eventually becomes meaningless when sponsors begin to pull out, and this time, it wasn't just the usual reaction that fades after a few days. The others weren't like this. She was beginning to lose the support of even regular viewers who had cheered her on in every incident before and who came in every day while nodding in accord with the show's customary talking points. Social media was filled with angry comments. Fans who had previously seen Whoopi as the voice of reason were now criticizing her. The hypocrisy, the blatant bias, and the double standards.
While I vow to provide the truth from this podium, we ask that all of you in this room hold yourselves to that same standard. We know for a fact there have been lies that have been pushed by many legacy media outlets in this country about this president, about his family, and we will not accept that. We will call you out when we feel that your reporting is wrong or there is misinformation about this White House.
Boo. She's got more.
I would like to point out to each and every one of you that in 2024, when Joe Biden was in the Oval Office or upstairs with the residents sleeping, I'm not so sure, egg prices increased 65% in this country.
Because it was so obvious, ABC realized they were in trouble. The real stunner then arrived. The very next program, for whatever reason, did not feature Whoopi Goldberg. No warning, no explanation, just gone. The lady who had dominated the vista, who had dominated the conversation and kept visitors out, for years vanished. According to an official statement from ABC, Whoopi is taking some time to think about the recent exchanges. I think we all know what that implies. This was not a personal choice. This wasn't a Whoopi pause to think about her life. What this was damage control. ABC went into overdrive. Pulling Whoopi off the air, at least temporarily, was their first step because they realized they had to move quickly. The network was testing whether her absence would improve the response or cause tensions to rise. But at this point, the writing was already on the wall. Whoopi Goldberg, the unstoppable force, the face of the program, the impenetrable powerhouse, and the celebrity who had always set the tone was suddenly disposable. VB Lee and the effects of it. However, it didn't stop there. ABC now had to make a big decision. Because let's be honest, this program has always been sustained on drama, controversy, heated arguments, and viral moments. They are currently treading extremely carefully, though, since if the negative reaction outweighs the increase in ratings, it's game over. Advertisers are backing away, their credibility is in shambles, viewers are tuning out, and the show may finally be on its last legs. Do they clean house, shake things up, and maybe even bring some balance to The View for the first time ever? Karoline Leavitt just hammered the last nail in the coffin. Her takedown was the most stunning event in The View's history. More importantly, is The View ending? And does Whoopi deserve to be fired for going too far? Please share your thoughts in the comments box below to make sure you don't miss any breaking news.